All right, and welcome to Hat-Trick Sports Talk. Back as always for the Friday edition. I'm here as always with Brandon and Shane. How are you guys doing today?
Good, good. How about you?
Good. How about you, Brandon?
Pretty good.
All right, let's get started with Thursday Night Football and what was a game between, I'll be honest, like two of the worst teams in the NFL, including the Eagles. That was horrible in so many different ways. But Brandon, I'll start with you. What were your thoughts on Thursday Night Football?
Uh, it was super boring. I only half watched it. Like I had it on in the background,
Mm-hmm.
Um, but man, it. I said this to Shane after the game ended. I was like, the Giants just can't catch a break.
The Giants can't catch a break.
Yeah, they just can't catch a break because you look at there's only maybe one game this year they've played that I would argue that they have gotten shellacked,
And it
which
was
would have
this
been
one?
the game. No, it was the game against the 49ers.
Okay, yeah,
I
that's
think they
fair.
got outplayed in the game against the 49ers. They didn't even get outplayed against the Eagles last night. They certainly didn't get outplayed against against the Dallas Cowboys. Like, they just are a team that can't finish. And it bothers me because they're right there on the edge. Like, they have players. They need a couple more pieces, and they need a better coach.
You don't like Joe Judge? What's wrong? We're 7 games in. You're already doubting Joe Judge?
Here's the
I
thing.
didn't like it from the beginning.
Here's the thing. Hear me out. Why go out and get a coach who's unproven in the NFL when you could get someone who has experience, which is what you would want for a team that needs more balance?
I agree, but also there were no coaching candidates that really wanted to go to New York other than Joe Judge by the end of it.
That's fair. I mean, here's my thing about
and maybe Carolina's coach.
Here's my thing about the Giants. The Giants sort of feel like the 2000 and I think it was like the 09 or no, the 08. Was it the 08? The 08 Seahawks, the year where Charlie Whitehurst no, the 09 Seahawks, the one
that was
where
09.
The one where Charlie Whitehurst played a lot of it.
He played like 5 games. 4 or 5.
He played 5 games, and we had Hasselback and whatnot. Like, we had okay quarterback play. We had aging wide receivers who could still play. We had some good aspects, and we had Jim Mora. So my point being, I wouldn't jump to conclusions and say a team is bad just because they're not being able to win, just because they're not able to win. There's a difference between Giants bad and Jets bad.
The Jets are just
Jets are just dysfunctional. Giants have pieces. They're just not able to win at this point. And what you said about Joe Judge, I'd say I think is fair. I think it's not fair to like not give a coach at least 2 years, especially if a coach is like losing close games,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know what they need to what I don't know what they can do to I think it's a mental thing right now. I mean, last night I truly thought they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
I think Daniel Jones just threw one interception too much.
Shane, your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think that the Giants, it's like there's something there. It just needs to come together. And I don't know what that missing piece is. I think it's just, like you said, probably a mental thing, just not just getting over this hump of being on this losing not streak, but just the losing mentality, and getting over the whole turnover thing and just starting to play more consistent. I think that would help them a lot. Because if you looked at, defensively, they actually looked pretty good last night. They made some good plays in the secondary. Got pressure and wins. Granted, the Eagles' offensive line isn't healthy, but not all the way at least. But I think that there could be something there. I agree. I think they need a better coach. I don't think Joe Judge was ever the right guy. And I just think that they need to get their confidence back. That would be a big thing, because especially when you look at this division, any of those teams could very easily win it at this point, just if they step up and just play a little better than the other people. But the Giants, to me, they're like the Chargers, or it's like they have, they get close and they almost win, but then in the end they just can't quite pull it off. I think the Chargers are better, but yeah, it's the same kind of idea to me.
No. Let me ask you this question though. It's not about who's better now. Who has the better future, Chargers or Giants?
Giants.
Chargers.
I say Chargers. Brandon, why do you say Giants have the better future?
But
I don't think it's close at all.
I think Giants have more tangible pieces currently. And I think the problem is I see the Chargers. Well,
the Chargers are a more now team than a future team. I will say that.
Right, yeah.
But
the Chargers, if you're having a conversation about who's going to be better in the next 2 or 3 years, I think it'll be Chargers. I think the Giants are going to be a team that will, when they get there, they will be dominant. I think they have the pieces. They just have a bunch of young pieces that need to learn how to play in the NFL.
Okay, so let me throw my 2 cents in here with the Giants. Without Saquon, they're really weird to watch. In fact, they're difficult to watch. Saquon makes that team go, and I feel frustrated for Daniel Jones because this is an opportunity for him to show. We all know he's the franchise quarterback. That's why I'm not even doubting Joe Judge, because I doubted Daniel Jones. I think we know he's the guy. I'm not going to say he isn't the guy. It's his time to show out and play at a high level. Devontae Freeman is now out. He's been okay, but let's be honest, that running back crew is not the same as a tandem than Saquon. This is his opportunity, but that offensive line is torturous.
Oh, yeah.
It is torture. Like Will Hernandez, who they picked up in the draft 2 years ago, he had a holding penalty in this game that I didn't really like. And I was just really this offensive line just as a whole is going to hurt a bunch of those players' developments like Will Hernandez.
Honestly, Robert, I would think if they went out and they picked up a veteran center and plopped him right in the middle of that line, it instantly becomes better.
Well, hang on. This is so you bring up an interesting point. So Kevin Zeitler, who we're going to talk about later in our segment about trade rumors, they had Nate Solder last year.
Oh yeah,
but
I don't know why they got rid of him. I
don't know, but I think they still have him. But keep in mind, he was on a massive contract and he was horrible.
Yeah, that's true.
Literally, the only tangible offensive linemen are Zeitler and Will Hernandez right now. Let's be honest.
Well, here would be an interesting pickup I would throw out there, right? We all know a great center who is currently unemployed.
Oh yeah, Justin Britt. That's a good call. That's a good
Why
call.
not? Why would you not go out and Justin
at
Britt,
least work him out. I don't understand why other teams
look at the man.
I don't
Like, the
understand why
Se-
other teams haven't
right.
worked him out.
Like, the Seahawks brought him in, and I think the only reason they didn't pick him up is because they wanted to keep the money for mid-season for like trade deadline.
We'll talk about the guy that they're planning on picking up in a bit.
I just wanted to point out, going back to Danny Dimes, which, by the way, I think is the best nickname for a quarterback.
It's so bad, but I'm starting to like
nickname.
more and more.
It's the best nickname for a quarterback who most definitely does not throw dimes right now. Did you see his 80-yard run?
Okay, yeah.
That should have been a touchdown, but he tripped over his big ass feet.
So here's the thing. Two things that I thought in that
He
moment.
got to 21 miles an hour during that.
It's hilarious. It's like,
it was great. Leonard Williams loved it on the sideline. I'm still a big Leonard Williams guy. Hasn't performed to a high level, but I still love him.
Patrick Mahomes tweeted about it.
What did he say?
He said, I can't. He said,
what did
Patty
Mahomes say, man?
He said, Patrick. I can't even say anything because I would never be able to run that far either.
Fair.
But I just found it hilarious seeing this like tall white dude just like running 80 yards and trip over his own feet.
So it was so perfect because even the NFL YouTube account, I believe, wrote this, and I was like, "This is fantastic." The NFC East in a nutshell, or something like that. And I was like, yes.
Yeah,
but it's also like I was like, how Giants would it be? How perfect would it be if they didn't score a touchdown? Like, imagine if who
That's
was
the
it?
First thing I thought.
Yeah,
after that run, he didn't score. My first thought was, they're not going to score, are they?
Well, that touchdown
they did, of
the
course.
game.
But
think about it. Like, that would have been
the Evan Ingram one should have won them the game.
Well, from everything we know about the game, that would have given the points to win.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, but they did score a touchdown in the end, only because of a pass interference call. Devontae Freeman, I believe, ran it in. But with the Giants right now, I'm just like in a really weird spot. Like, okay, yeah, they have young pieces. That defense is, I mean, they picked up Logan Ryan. I think he made a pretty big play at the end there, even though they still lost. I mean, honestly, like their secondary doesn't have any developmental pieces. Pretty much their whole defense, I would say, doesn't really have many developmental pieces. I think Leonard Williams has pretty much established what he is now. At this point, that defense is the biggest issue, and that offensive line. Well, no, I think the offensive line is the biggest issue, and then the defense. But right now, they're going to have to do so much roster shifting in the next couple of years compared to the Chargers, who are really not going to have to do that under Herbert right now.
They also just have a lot of veteran pieces in there.
Yeah, that's part of my problem.
Are just kind of not helping. I mean, their whole wide receiver core is pretty old.
Well, I mean Golden Tate ups the age a little bit. Sterling Shepard is pretty much established at this point. Darius Slayton is still growing. I know, Shane,
Ingram's
you have him on your
good.
fantasy team. Ingram, what is happening with Ingram? What is happening with him? He has not looked good this year, and it's frustrating me. It really is, because he's a much better player than he's shown this year.
Can we have like a short conversation about the NFC East as a whole?
I think this is the right time.
Am I going to be the only one out of the three of us who is pissed off if anybody who from the NFC East gets to play in the playoffs? Because I know it's going to happen, but like, it shouldn't. Should not.
Shane, go ahead before I speak.
This is my whole damn point that I've been saying for years, why not everybody in a division, rephrase that. Why just because you win your division does not mean you should be given a top 4 seed, because right now the Eagles are projected to finish 6-9-1 and win the division. Okay. A 6-win team in the playoffs.
With a tie.
Oh my God, they would beat the Seahawks record. They would beat the Seahawks nonsense from 2009.
Yeah, they would. Because we went 7-9. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But see, that's the thing. Like, even if it were the Seahawks, I wouldn't want them in there. They didn't earn it.
Yeah.
Okay. No. So if a team goes, let's say the Eagles do go 6-9-1, so they're going to get the 4th seed, and then a team like Green Bay, if they don't win the division, since Chicago's currently predicted to win, or
no, we're talking about NFC,
No,
so I'm not sure
Houston.
who it would be. Chicago? No, Chicago. I would say maybe at this point.
like Chicago, Tampa, New Orleans, LA, like an 11-5 team or whatever, has to go on the road in the first round of their playoffs to a team across the freaking country who didn't even earn their spot in the
same
playoffs.
Thing happened last year. Seattle had to go to Philly, which, by the way, pissed me off to no extent because we were the better team.
But Philly had 10 wins.
Exactly. 9.
Oh, they had 9 wins. They had 9 wins.
They had 11.
That's right.
And
they had
because
9.
we didn't win our division, because of that goal line stand, which I will forever not agree with you, Robert.
Oh my God, that was the best goal line stand maybe ever. It was so good.
Be more of a
great.
49ers diehard.
No, dude, it was awesome. Dre Greenlaw hit him straight up. It was great.
But yeah, I agree with Shane. Like, there needs to be a new way of deciding. But at the same time, the problem is this, right? You're gonna have a bunch of people being like, "Oh, it's not fair that my division doesn't get." I would say, get good, better, have better teams.
Well, hang on. Here's the problem. The only reason we're having this conversation is because of one division.
Right.
That's part of the problem. That's part of the problem here. It's not 4 divisions. It's not 2. It's 1.
Right. But here's the thing.
Has sucked for the last 5 years.
Here's the thing. People had this exact same conversation about the NFC West from the year 2007 to the year 2010. And even then,
I would say 12, but either way.
And even then, when the Seahawks got good in 2012, it was still the Seahawks above and then everybody else.
Right. But it was like the Seahawks and the Niners by that point. But yeah. But that's the problem. It's like, so I'm not saying that this is a necessary. I'm starting to open up to the fact that this is a pretty good idea of how to change it. But if they were going to do it, why didn't they do it last year during the CBA? I mean, if you're going to bump the teams up to 7, why didn't they just do it last year?
Because no division's gonna voluntarily bring up the idea of, hey, let's not have a guaranteed playoff.
Well, hang on. You don't think there's any team?
Do they not get bonuses for making the playoffs?
I think in the NFL it's the pool thing, like baseball. I think it's like a pool thing. I'm not sure though.
Right.
It might still be just salary based, but the problem that I have is like, okay, that's the first thing is you make a good point is does a team bring it up? I don't think that's likely, but I can't keep having this conversation every year and going, oh, the NFC East is so bad every single year. We have to keep having this conversation.
But is it that bad every year? Like
they've been so bad the last 5 years, have they not?
I mean,
other than what was it?
The Super Bowl 2 years ago.
The Eagles won the Super Bowl 2 years ago.
NFC East. Let's see. NFC East.
I mean,
going back to 2017.
Well, it's not just an NFC East problem here. For me, it's just whoever is the bad division.
I mean, in the NFC, the East in 2017, they had Eagles had 13 wins, Cowboys 9, Washington 7. I mean, the Cowboys, for all we like to trash on them, they haven't been exactly atrocious.
No, but they're atrocious to the standard that we expect the Cowboys to be, which is overboard standard.
Right, but I think Shane is correct. The conversation here shouldn't be about one specific division. It's about the idea that every year there is one division that doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Go to it. Jeez, what's a good year?
Or even if they
2015.
do, even if they give me
in the playoffs. Well, hang on. But here's my question. So in this, I'm trying to figure out if there's ever been a year over the last 5 years. This might take some extensive research, but let's say the last 5 years. Has there ever? I'm certain there hasn't consistently
AFC
been
South.
a year where a team who's 9-7 goes to the playoffs, and even then, are we not expecting an 8-8 team to make
Titans
the playoffs
last year 9-7?
Texans in 2015 went to the playoffs with 9-7.
Well, okay, if 9-7 is always my benchmark. If you go 9-7, you probably should have a shot to make the playoffs. But especially at this format, guys, in this format, 9-7 teams have an easy way in. In this format, 8-8 teams have a shot, realistically.
Titans and
format.
Texans tied at 9-7 in 2016. Let's see. I remember in the early 2000 in the early 2010s there were a bunch of teams that like just were terrible.
But Shane, here's my question to you, and I think this is important. If we're in a we have 7 team, this 7-team playoff thing.
Mm-hmm.
So in that instance, a 9-7 team, an 8-8 team is probably going to make it in, right? That's just a given.
Yeah.
Would it be better? And I think this is kind of where I'm getting at and where I'm starting to kind of understand your point. Would it be better if we stick with the divisions, but we say to ourselves, if you went, we're going to go based off record for seeding, overall record by conference based on seeding. So like the Eagles going 6 wins, they're the 7th seed, not the 4th seed. Wouldn't that be better? Isn't that
they
just
don't even get in.
Okay, fine, but let's say for instance the league doesn't want to go away with divisions. Would you be fine with them just saying, okay, they're a 7?
That would be better. Yeah. I mean, it's like
because that seems to be the simplest fix based on how the NFL wants to do things moving forward.
a good example of this would be the 2013-14 season. The Seahawks went 13-3, and they were the 1st seed. And the 49ers were 12-4, and they were the 2nd seed. Or sorry, the 5th seed.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make more sense if they are the 2nd seed instead?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
Instead of having to go on the road, because like their first wild card game was against the 4th seed Green Bay Packers, who were
on
7-8-1.
the road.
Yeah.
On the road in that cold weather game. Remember that game was like cold weather. It might have snowed, whatever. I think that's the easiest fix here. I don't think we get rid of divisions. I think we just say
no, don't get rid of divisions.
Well, not get rid of divisions, but get rid of division. You're saying a wider spectrum of saying, hey, let's get rid of if you win the division, you make the playoffs. I'm saying the NFL won't do that. Why don't we just do seeding?
Here's a weird.
Right, no. Yeah, so, I don't think really quickly. I just don't think no, I don't think you should get rid of divisions. It's still fun to have those division rivalries, whatever. Just don't consider it in terms of playoff seeding.
Yeah, but
just
my
by conference.
But my point, right? But my point is, let's keep the divisions because the NFL is not going to change that. Let's be honest, no team's going to do that. So let's just say seeding. If you go 7-9 or 8-8, you're at the bottom of the barrel,
right?
Regardless of if you win a division.
So I was going to say, this is in my searching for all the different divisions, the weirdest divisional shakeup I've seen of all time. Do you know who made up the NFC West until 2001?
Oh yeah, that whole
Rams
shift with the division.
And 49ers, the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Saints.
Yeah, this was back in the day when the what was it? The Seahawks were an AFC West team.
First of all, who the hell thinks that New Orleans Saints should be in the West?
I don't know.
The Panthers.
Falcons, well, I mean, if you think about it, those 3 teams.
North Carolina is literally on the East Coast.
Well, no, if you think about it, the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Saints all broke off and became part of their own division and added one other team.
But here's my question: how many divisions that we have now make sense geographically? Do all of them make sense?
Coast. Only the NFC West. Other than Arizona, because they're
Well, that's still West though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them just don't make a ton of sense. Like the fact that NFC Miami East is in the same division as the Patriots is just like, okay, sure.
I mean, it's not. Yeah.
Yo, they should have a division based upon weather. Just have it just like the NFC freezing cold. Why the
AFC
hell are we
North. There you
playing?
go.
Yeah, the AFC North. Why are we playing in this frozen
Isn't that
tundra?
basically the AFC North? Isn't that basically the NFC North?
Yeah, pretty much.
much?
No,
Chicago,
AFC.
Detroit,
Green
Because the
Bay.
NFC North, they
Green
all play
Bay.
in domes for the most part.
Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota's now playing in a dome over what was that 3 years
And
ago?
It
Detroit.
should be, no, you could call it the NFC wannabe Canadians.
Nah.
Oh, so
'Cause,
then
they're
Buffalo.
all like by the border.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
My one of my favorite cities in all of America. So Shane, let me go to you and talk about the Eagles now. Okay, how do you feel? Oh, I guess it's a simple question. How do you feel about the Eagles? How do you feel about Carson Wentz right now after this game? Do you feel any better about them, or are they kind of on the
Nope.
same length as the Giants right now for you?
Yeah, no, I do not like them at all. I think Carson Wentz, he looked really sloppy. His accuracy was all over the place. He barely had any time to make throws. I don't. Luckily their secondary made a couple of turnovers. Otherwise, I don't think they would have won. I do not like where this team is going, and I don't know where this is coming from. I guess injuries, but I mean, they looked really good the last few games last year, and so we were thinking, oh, they're gonna improve and win 11 games or something, and then here we are. So it's very, very weird. I don't know what to make of them. I think they'll probably win the NFC East. So that's kind of depressing, but do what you will with that, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. How this happened or why, but I guess it did. So.
Yep.
Got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, let's go to the Sunday slate. Sunday slate is pretty fun, I would say. So, we Steelers Titans, of course, being switched because of COVID. But Brandon, I'll go to you. 10:00 slate, not too loaded, but an interesting one nonetheless. What's a game you're looking forward to here?
Well, I just noticed that most of these teams are like really good team versus a really bad team.
Yeah.
I would say Steelers Titans.
Yeah.
Because it's the undefeated versus undefeated. And to me it's like legit 5-0 versus fake 5-0.
Who's the fake 5-0?
Titans are the fake 5-0?
Yeah.
Really?
At me.
No, I will at you. This is garbage. No, they're 5-0 for us, and they're a good team.
No, whatever. We can tighten up. Just
tighten up.
No.
Man, tighten up.
No.
Tighten.
No. Titans. Even if they are real 5-0, I have no respect for them this season at all. So I will hate on them every game.
Yeah, neither do I. But
I'm all in right now.
As you know, I can be very. As you know, I can be very. I don't need money reasons to be vindictive against a sports team. Also, yes, Shane, really.
That was a sarcasm.
Cowboys, and I also probably Cowboys and the football team.
Washington.
Because it's like watching a car crash. You can't look away.
It'd be fun to watch that on Red Zone.
It just keeps rolling. It keeps rolling, and it's like you're like, ooh, fire, and then you're like, oh wait, it's a car crash. I gotta go help him.
That's so strange analogy.
And then obviously, it's a weird way of putting it. And then
you got a point.
My third game would probably be I don't know.
It's okay.
Packers, Texans, maybe.
Yeah, pretty
We'll
good.
go with that.
Okay, Shane, 1 o'clock. So we got the shift, of course, Buccaneers, Raiders, now the 1 o'clock game on Fox. Here is the 1 o'clock slate. What's the game you're looking forward to here?
Well, first of all, I am also very excited for the Titans Steelers. That's definitely the one I'm looking forward to most. But for the 1 o'clock slate, I got my eye on the Browns Bengals. I want to see this rematch.
That's a 10 o'clock. That's a 10 o'clock, but yeah, that should be good too.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh God.
The 1 o'clock start with Bucks Raiders.
awkward.
But that should that should be a good game too. You can speak on that as well.
Well, no, because like, this division is really interesting to me. I don't think that there's a team in that division that's really that bad. No, the Bengals have not looked great, but I think that they are, they're like another Giants to me, or Chargers. Like, they are a good team that can make good plays and drive down the field and do well. They just can't quite get it done. And I don't know. I feel like the Browns are going to be kind of at a low after that loss, and the same with the Bengals. And I think, the Bengals, especially Burrow, he's going to have kind of a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to want to go out there and just really play well. And I don't know, last time they played, it was the second game of the season, and Burrow, he's gotten some playing time. He's looking really good. I think Cincinnati could win it, honestly. I don't know. We'll have to see. It was really close last time. And I expect it to be the same thing here.
I will also
think.
Go ahead, Shane. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think if Cleveland wants to keep up their playoff hopes, this is probably a game that they should win, because you look at their division, look at the guys above them. That's a lot that they have to compete with. Obviously, Baltimore is the favorite, but, and here's my hot take of the week, I think Pittsburgh is going to win this division. And
okay,
maybe
so that's putting it on the table for this week from
right,
Sunday.
Yeah.
Your take is that the Steelers are the best team in this division and are going to win. Why?
Yeah. Well, to me, they're just a more complete team. You look at the Steelers. Okay, first of all, the guy they have under center, I've been critical of him the last couple of years, just because of the injuries and the inconsistency, and I just feel like I can't trust him. But now that he's healthy and he's playing well, he looks really good. Big Ben, he looks sharp. And, as long as their guys are held, James Conner, and even, Claypool is really showing up and doing great. Not to mention their O-line still looks pretty good, and their defense obviously is, like, their front seven is fantastic. Baltimore, on the other hand, Lamar is he's inconsistent this year. They don't really, their running game is weaker than it was. And
injuries have played a part in that, but yeah, it's been pretty bad.
Oh yeah, and then they have no pass game either, which doesn't help. And their defense does not look nearly as fine-tuned as it was last year.
Shane, you know what happened a few days ago, right? The Ravens have now definitely a top 3 defense because they brought in Yannick Ngakoue for nothing. Literally a third and a fifth. Their defense now has Yannick Ngakoue, who hasn't played very well this year, but the fact that he's on the Ravens freaks me out and should freak out every other NFL team.
Well, Yes, but my concern with them is not the defensive line; it's the secondary.
That's also fair.
So I don't know.
I mean,
I just
Marcus
think
Peters
that,
has played well this year, though. Wouldn't you say?
yeah, but I mean, there's 4 people to a secondary, not 1. You know,
Yeah.
or even 5 in some cases. But yeah, I mean, I just think that I think Pittsburgh has more ways they can win, and I think that they're much more consistent. And I mean, in the end, I that just their more veteran experience goes to help them out.
Before I let Brandon go at this point, I'm going to say a few things. One, I don't think there's necessarily a proper argument to refute your point, other than to say that I really do believe that the Ravens have kind of hit a turn now, where now that they have Ngakoue, that defense looks solid. They're going to be ridiculous. Not to say that the Steelers defense isn't solid as well. In fact, I still put them ahead. The only way I can really refute it is I think that if you look at how the Ravens offense has been playing, they're definitely trying to make Lamar throw the ball a little bit more. He's not running the ball as much. So there's definitely, at least for the first 6 weeks, been sort of a transitional period for this offense in terms of how they want to play. And that takes some time. I think with the Ravens, let's wait till like week 12 before we make a determination about how we feel about them. I still put the Ravens as Super Bowl contenders, but I also put the Steelers as Super Bowl contenders. I think the only way I can really refute your point is to say that I think it's really early. I want to see the Ravens play
obviously
5-6 more weeks, but I understand why that would be a bold prediction, of course. But the only way I can really refute it is to say I think that the defense is top 3 for both of these teams. And I think that the Ravens are now starting to turn a corner offensively. Brandon, your thoughts on that point?
I think the Ravens just aren't. The Ravens don't impress me. Straight up. I mean, they were really good last year, but I think one of the big reasons I'm starting to realize for that is Lamar Jackson, the fact that he could just run around the field. I continue to say his passing is just not that accurate. But I don't know. I haven't watched all that many games this year of his. And the one game where I did see him, he got absolutely trounced. So
yeah. Anyway, I feel a bit more positive about the Ravens than I think most people, and I think the main reason why is I just think last week I started to see the offense get a bit better, and I think they are turning a bit of a corner, at least for the 1 o'clock slate.
You still,
yeah.
I was just gonna say, do you? Because at the beginning of the year, they were your Super Bowl prediction, right?
Yeah, they were them and the Niners.
Are they still?
I think right now the Chiefs right now are still, or not still, but I think it's shifted to the Chiefs. I think the Niners are out there running in the NFC. I'm having a tough time with the NFC right now in terms of, I mean, I think there's a lot of contenders there, but at least for the AFC, I think it's the Chiefs runaway right now, especially them bringing in Le'Veon. That offense is ridiculous, and that defense is better than I think people give it credit for. It's not perfect, but it's getting better. It's improving every game, I think. At least for the 1 o'clock. Of course, Chiefs Broncos should be fun. I really want to start case studying Drew Lock a little bit. I wasn't very impressed with the game last week against the Patriots. I want to see a bit more of Drew Lock now that he's fully healthy. Let's see how he does the rest of the year. I'm still a big fan, but let's see some improvement the last stretch of the season here in week 7 and going into trade deadline week in a few weeks. But the main matchup that everyone's talking about is the Niners and the Patriots for unfair reasons. As Brandon and I talked about last week, the media again this week has unfortunately felt like the Patriots have fallen off a cliff after that Broncos game, which I think is unbelievable, especially, and I think it would be wrong of us to think of it that way, considering the praise that we had on the Patriots in that Sunday Night Football game against the Seahawks. I I don't know why the media is so quick to write them off. I think Brandon and I, as we spoke on Sunday, we said they're a playoff team and not much else, but they're a playoff team. I don't think they're anything worse than that. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think, Brandon, you agree with me on that. But Shane, give me your thoughts on how the Patriots conversation, at least nationally, has shifted so dramatically from what we did with that Seahawks game a few weeks ago.
Well, I think part of the reason for that is because after Brady left and just seeing how their season ended last year, a lot of people, myself included, very quick to say, oh, Patriots are gonna suck now. Yeah, whatever. So then, you see the Patriots doing, they're not having a winning record or whatever. And so then, those same people are like, oh yeah, see, no, they're terrible. And, just to prove that they were right. Even though, they haven't had Cam, and he is definitely the difference maker there. I think once they have him back for a couple weeks and he, starts settling in with that team again, things will be better. Granted, he definitely needs more weapons. Edelman is, I think he's good, but he's not feeling special necessarily. I mean, he's a good slot guy, but they really need a tight end, a deep receiver, deep threat, bunch of stuff, and they just don't. And to me, that's what's really hurting them. If they could have a guy that they could go over the top to, then they would be pretty dangerous, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about some of those options in a bit for the Patriots, but do you still feel like they're a playoff team, a wild card team, or no?
I think they're a contender. Yeah, I mean, it's we'll see. Like the AFC North discussion, we'll see as the season goes along, obviously, right? But yeah, no, I mean, I think they, definitely have a decent shot at a wild card. I mean, I think Buffalo wins the division despite their recent struggles. But then you also have to consider Miami. They're playing pretty hot. Plus, there's a bunch of other teams in other AFC divisions competing for a wild card, like Pittsburgh or Baltimore, whoever doesn't win that division, maybe even Cleveland, Vegas. Who else is there? Indy, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of teams, but I think they're definitely in that mix.
Mm-hmm. That's a good reminder. I almost forgot about this for some strange reason. Let's talk about Miami. Brandon, I'll go to you first. Tua is now the official starter for the Miami Dolphins. Is that a shock to you?
Yeah, it is. Why would you pull the hot hand when you have a chance of? It's not like they're that far down the pole, It's like I legitimately see the Dolphins of having a chance to win the division this year, like the way they're playing. I just think it's ridiculous, and it's like I get it that you want to, give the young guy confidence and yada yada yada, but like this was Fitzpatrick's team this year. Like it wasn't Tua's team; it's Fitzpatrick's team. Tua gets to have his year next year. Honestly, I think Tua's gonna suck because Tua, frankly, he can be as good of a quarterback as he wants. But just based upon statistics, rookie quarterbacks usually don't do very well. So,
Shane, your thoughts on Tua starting?
Yeah, I think this is pretty much the worst coaching decision of the entire NFL all year this year. No, seriously, I do. I really don't understand it at all. it's when I saw that, I mean, obviously Tua played a bit at the end of that Jets game, which
He played
I
one
would have put him
series.
in. Yeah, I mean, like I would have put him in there too, even just because I mean they weren't going to lose at that point, so it's like, yeah, just get him in there, get him some snaps in the game, whatever, whatever. And then next week we're back at it with Fitz doing our thing. Great. But no, then they say, okay, we're going to start him. And I was like, what? Why? Okay, you're on a winning streak. If Fitzpatrick is finally on a somewhat decent team that's actually winning, starting for them, by the way, and they're doing good, and they're like, yeah, sorry, we're gonna bench you for this rookie who, like Brandon said, is probably gonna suck, I think. And I mean, you could just see how emotional he was about it. I mean, I feel so bad for Fitzpatrick. I really do. I mean, this guy, he stayed with that team and gave it his all last year when they were terrible. And this year he stuck with them and he did all. And then, I mean, this is just like a slap in the face for all of that.
Yep.
Now, when they're finally doing good, I feel like, honestly, a large part due to him, they're saying, nope, we're going to go to this rookie. We have no idea how he's going to do.
So
here's your middle finger.
So I started to think about this more as the days went on, and the more I started to figure out why they did this decision. And optically, it's horrible. I am not denying that. Fitzpatrick has played tremendously well considering the circumstances, and he's done great. But the more I think about it, I don't think it was right for him for Tua to start this week. No, I think optically it would have made more sense if Fitzpatrick is going to have a bad game, which we know he would have at some point. Then you could put Tua in. Optically, it's bad, but the more I looked at it as the days went on, the more I was like, oh, I get what Brian Flores is doing. And credit Ryan Shazier on the Ringer NFL show, and he was talking about this decision, and I started to understand why. Because if you look at that roster offensively, you got Devontae Parker, you got Preston Williams, you got Myles Gaskin, who's been playing out of his mind recently. This offense is very young, and giving this offense, along with Tua, who's going to be their future, the ability to grow together as a unit. When Miami knows they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year, Ryan Shazier talked about this exact same thing. They know they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. They might win the division, sure, but they know they're not going to win a Super Bowl. Yes, optically it looks bad, but in terms of this offense, I think Flores started to realize after that first series, like, I kind of want this group to grow together. And I think that's what ultimately set him to make this decision. It was like, okay, here's the young quarterback that we have. Regardless if he struggles or not, let's get him some experience and let's help this still very young offensive core build together. And obviously not to mention Mike Gesicki as well, not to forget him. That is why I think he made the decision ultimately. Because I think this offense is so young, and to give it a shot to grow together as a unit is better for them long term when they realize they're not going to win a Super Bowl this year. That's how I feel about it.
Well, yes, that makes, yes, I think you're right. That is, I would imagine, why they are doing it. But I don't know. I still don't agree with it personally.
I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the decision, but I understand where Flores is coming from, because inevitably, I'm sorry, at this point, inevitably Fitzpatrick was going to have a bad game down the road anyway. This is how Fitzpatrick plays. It's just what it is. I love Fitzpatrick, but that's just what it is. That's how his seasons go normally. It's not about getting ahead of that. I think it's just about, hey, let's just give this young guy a shot. And it won't, I'm not saying it will be pretty. There's a shot it could be, though. Herbert's played well, and I think, Flores knows how to work with a young quarterback. there's a shot this could go well, but for me, I the more I sat there and thought about it, and credit Ryan Shazier, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, this makes sense. Optically, it's horrible. It is. But it makes sense why you would make this decision now rather than in a few weeks when Fitzpatrick could potentially have a bad game. In terms of the Sunday night game, Brandon, I'll go to you. We got another Seahawks game on Sunday Night Football, of course, being flexed. How do the Seahawks defense stop this Cardinals offense, which is very weird on Monday night against the
Cowboys? Personally, I don't think they're gonna have much trouble. I mean, it's like I think their biggest problem will be stopping Kyler, but when you have Russell Wilson, who you practice against, I think they'll be fine. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm not impressed with their offense. Just not. I don't know. That's all I really have to say. There's not much I can.
Shane, the Seahawks defense is ranked 31st in the NFL. Now, obviously, that's a lot to do with injuries. But if you look at this Cardinals offense, and again, as I said, wasn't pretty. It should be honestly a pretty high scoring game. I really feel like both sides are just going to go crazy because these two defenses, let's be honest, are not very great statistically.
Well, that's the interesting thing about the Seahawks defenses. Yeah, they're 31st in yards allowed, but they're 20th in points allowed. So, there is a bit of a, not really a huge difference there, but, still it's something to take note of. But also, I mean, you look at the offenses they've played so far, and they've all been, pretty good, really. Of course, Matt Ryan and the Falcons pass attack, and then Patriots, whatever. But, I do, to me, the Cardinals offense is like the Ravens offense in terms of, having a quarterback kind of like Lamar, who's fast, and then having, a couple of running backs that are all good, but none of them really, stand out. Except the big difference to me is that their passing game, Arizona actually has a really good passing game, whereas Baltimore, I feel, doesn't really. They have D-Hop, Larry Fitzgerald, Kirk.
Christian Kirk played well last week.
Yeah, they have so many weapons offensively. Honestly, I normally don't ever disagree with Brennan on stuff like this, but honestly, I think the Cardinals are going to win by 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Interesting.
I could be wrong. But the Seahawks defense is still not healthy, not all the way at least. And just looking at how Arizona was able to do against Dallas last week.
Yeah, but
a team that
it's Dallas though. Like,
I know, but Seattle played Dallas as well earlier in the year, and the results were about the same. And so, I don't know. To me, either Seahawks are going to go in there thinking, "Oh yeah, we're 5-0, we're good, not good, but not really treating it like it's that big a deal," and then go in there and blow it, or it'll be really close, and then Wilson will pull it out like at the last second.
I just like to point
that's
out.
Why I see that's more. They're more likely.
Out, the Cardinals have played the 49ers, Washington, Detroit, Carolina, the Jets, and the Cowboys.
And they haven't played great in all of them. But
last couple of weeks they've been good though.
They haven't played anybody of real like depth. You know?
Well, again. My thought is, I think Shane is. I don't agree with the Cardinals win by 2 touchdowns. I think what happens here is it's gonna be stupidly high scoring, and the Seahawks are gonna pull it out by a touchdown. But I think
it's definitely going to be a high score.
Well,
here's
my thing. I think people sleep on the Seahawks defense. Right? Here's my reason. Right?
They're 31st.
Robert, shut up for a second.
In yards.
They are 31st, right? Yes. Oh no, they're 31st in defense. I don't give a shit if teams are throwing for 400 yards. What I care about is our teams throwing for 400 yards and getting in the end zone every single time. Like, we are, when it comes to goal line defense, we're pretty good this year. Like, we're not giving up a ton of points. Like, this team, there's a reason we're 5-0. It's not just a fluke.
It's not because of defense.
Well, it certainly ain't not because of defense.
It's because of the offense. The defense
because of the offense, but like you don't go 5-0 without having a decent defense. Like this defense is decent. It's not.
It's what it is. It's 31st because of injuries.
Whatever, Robert.
It's 31st in yards.
Yeah, you're making
20th in scoring.
Yeah,
still, it's pretty bottom.
And they have some of the most turnovers in the whole league.
Yeah, that's true. I'll just say this: I think when they're healthy, they're top 15. But they're not healthy right now.
It's a better defense than people are giving it credit for at the moment. Like
if they're healthy, yes.
Robert,
but they're not.
With all the problems they're dealing with, it's a pretty fucking good defense. Like they are hurt, and yet they are still doing enough to win games.
And look at the offenses that they've played. Atlanta, okay. New England, Dallas when Dak was really hot, okay. He was doing that to everybody.
Minnesota.
Miami when they were hot, Minnesota when they were also hot. You know what I mean?
I mean, at the same time, I look at the Seahawks team and I have two issues. One is I agree nationally with the defense, at least for a couple more weeks. And two, again, I think I need to see them blow out a team before I can say they can win the Lombardi Trophy.
Oh my God.
I need to see them blow out a team.
I mean, that's fair.
Say it about any other team, Robert, for 1 week, please. Like, good Lord.
The over-under for this game in terms of points is 56.5. Over or under?
Total points?
Total points over-under is 56.5. Over-under.
Oh, over. It'll be at least 70 total.
Brannan?
Over.
Yeah, I'm going over on that.
Over.
And then Shane, Brandon and I talked about the Bears on Sunday. I'll have you finish out the schedule talking about the Bears. Is this a fluky 5-1?
I don't know, honestly. I think to me they feel more like 4-2. Not that that's that much of a difference, but I mean I would just jump the gun and say yeah, but I mean, they beat Tampa, who looks really good, and I don't know. I mean, they've had impressive victories while not looking impressive. If that makes sense. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think it's kind of luck, honestly, part of it. But I think Foles. No, he's not a franchise guy, but I think he's a serviceable bridge guy, at least for right now.
That's a good way to put Foles, bridge guy. Yeah,
and I mean, he's definitely shown that this year. No, they should not stick with him for the future. They should try drafting a rookie or getting Darnold. I don't know, just a thought.
We'll get to that.
But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I don't see them winning this division. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
They are currently in first place in the division. Never thought that would have happened, but here we are.
All right, let's go. Before we go to trade rumors, let's go to some free agency rumors. Antonio Brown is just about to finish his suspension in about a week. Seattle is his top target. Brandon, I'll go to you. Do the Seahawks need Antonio Brown moving forward?
Hell no.
No,
So do you
We don't-
agree that
we
they
don't
should
need-
pick him up?
we don't need him, and frankly, I don't want him. I think he's just nothing but chaos,
Trouble.
and
Noise.
we just have such a good thing going with our wide receiver core right now. Like,
Yes, I agree.
I mean, you got DK Metcalf, who's a great deep threat. Tyler Lockett, good gadget guy, and David Moore, who is proven to be a pretty good slot dude. So, hey, I'm
Maybe
good.
Josh Gordon comes back too. Maybe.
Yeah. That's a lot of people have been saying this about Antonio Brown, and I wouldn't be against this. Is that they could get him and then trade for like JJ Watt or something.
That's not gonna happen.
That I would. No, I know, but I would be okay with that. That would be fine. But yeah, no.
So there is a couple things to be said here. I think if you're Antonio Brown, Seattle isn't necessarily the best fit if you want targets necessarily. I feel like the Seahawks did a pretty good job managing Josh Gordon. So I don't think that they would have too much trouble managing Antonio Brown. And I think Russell and Geno Smith, of course, they have a really good relationship with him. I think they can help keep him in check. I don't like Antonio Brown, and all that being said, I picked him up on my fantasy team. Look, I'm trying to separate. I'm trying to win in my fantasy league, but in our fantasy league. But I'll be honest, I don't like Antonio Brown. I don't like his antics. I don't like what he brings to the table. But ultimately, I mean, New England didn't fit with him. But if there's any other place other than New England that a team can help a guy like Antonio Brown fit, and that was the same with Josh Gordon, it would be Seattle. So I'm not opposed to it. And let's be honest, you know how much this would cost? $1 million probably. Maybe it literally would cost them nothing to bring him in. I don't know how much it hurts the culture, but if it costs you $1 million, you might as well. I don't know how else to put it. You might as well. Do we need him? No. I don't think if you're Seattle, you want him, but it's $1 million. I mean, if it doesn't work in 2 weeks, you can just cut him for nothing. I would imagine that's what the contract would be. So I don't see what's a massive risk here other than, at least from the money perspective, I don't know what's a massive risk here. I think they just should do it and see what happens.
I don't think it's a risk necessarily. I just don't think it's necessary,
And I'm not saying it's
like,
necessary
why
either,
even
but
bother?
I don't think it's necessary
Yeah.
either. But at the same time, if you look at the money, if you look at the Russell's been vouching for him constantly, Geno's been vouching for him constantly. They have players in there that can keep him in check. Seattle's clearly shown themselves as a city that can help these guys at least bounce back somewhat. It's not my favorite thing, but, and again, I don't like Antonio, but I just don't see what's the harm here necessarily. I just don't. Let's go to a bunch of these trade rumors. I wrote down a few of the big ones, some smaller ones, but I wrote down a few big ones. We have trade deadline on election day, by the way, kind of a cool wrinkle there, that the trade deadline is on November 3rd, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. So before we get to the change of scenery quarterbacks, out of these teams that I listed, what are some interesting players that could be moving in a few weeks? Shane, I'll go to you first.
Well, I think I think that Matt Ryan and Julio Jones are interesting because if I'm Atlanta, I'm going to try and do everything I can to hold on to those guys while they are, at least for the next 3 or 4 years, while they're kind of trying to, bounce back and figure things out. Because I do think that Matt Ryan is better than people think. I know you guys talked about that last week. But I agree with Robert on this one. I mean, he is an MVP. He consistently puts up 4,000 yard seasons and 25, 30 touchdowns. So I do think he's the right guy for right now. But let's see, other ones. I don't know. Alshon Jeffrey, maybe. Except if Fulgham keeps working out, then I guess that's not a huge thing. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's not too many surprises.
Brandon, is there any particular player or team with a player potentially on the block that you're interested in talking about?
I think the Bengals probably, because I know both AJ Green and John Ross have made it pretty clear that they want out. So that kind of puts the Bengals in a weird situation.
Does it?
Because it's like, well, I mean, it might help them if they trade them, because then they can just draft and they can draft young, wide receivers,
or get an O-line or a defense or something.
Right. They have Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. They're not necessarily jonesing at wide receiver.
And John Ross hasn't exactly done anything for them.
No.
Unfortunately.
AJ Green is on the franchise tag, so he could be fairly easy to trade as well.
I think David Njoku is an interesting trade because he's a pretty top tier tight end. I'd say the idea of Sam Darnold being traded is very strange. Considering I don't think what are you gonna have Shane's favorite quarterback?
You're gonna have the GOAT
the rest of the year.
Duh, obviously.
So before we get to the change of scenery QBs, I think the main one here, well, Kevin Zeitler is interesting for the Giants as well. We spoke about him earlier. It'd be interesting to see if they actually move him, considering how bad they are at offensive line. But the Browns, Dante Pettis as well for the Niners, good punt returner for some teams. Could be an interesting late round pick ad for some of these guys. But David Njoku is a fun one. I think there are so many teams. New England can look at a guy like AJ Green and David Njoku potentially. New England always makes a midseason trade. Watch out for that. Njoku is a great tight end. Hasn't gotten the shot with Austin Hooper. He's been wanting out for months on end for good reason. Njoku can definitely give the Browns some value in terms of draft picks. I see New England jumping at the bit for that one and AJ Green as well. So I think those two are to watch. Are interesting to watch. Sam Darnold and Dwayne Haskins have been mulling around in the executive offices of the NFL as an interesting trade piece. A lot of teams have reportedly studied Dwayne Haskins to try to make a move for him. I think a change of scenery would help him and Darnold as well, although it is being reported that Darnold getting a first-round pick for Darnold seems really unlikely. And unfortunately for both of these quarterbacks, considering the amount of capital you paid for them in the first round, I think you want a first-round pick in return, and I don't think that's very likely, unfortunately.
Where do you think it would be the most likely landing spots for Darnold?
I have no clue because I think a lot of these teams are really comfortable at quarterback.
I have two ideas.
What are your two
First
ideas?
Is Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago. The other one, this one might be a bit more of a stretch, but honestly, I could see Indy.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch because I think they're happy with Phillip, but at least as a long-term play, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
What about Dwayne Haskins, Shane?
Jets after Darnold is gone. I don't know. I don't see him being a starter anywhere because I don't even know where he would start. I can't think of a team.
Yeah, I have a hard time with Dwayne right now. I still like him. I don't think Washington's giving him a fair shot with a Riverboat Ron. I think he should have started the whole year, but because Kyle Allen isn't necessarily tremendous, so I don't know what to do with Dwayne. Brandon, your thoughts on
Alex Smith?
I also would be down for that. But Brandon, what are your thoughts on these two quarterbacks and where you think they could land?
I could see. See, I don't know if there's a ton of places for a quarterback to go currently, at least as a starter. I think both of them will end up somewhere as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like Jacksonville or I was going to say Indy, but they have lots of quarterbacks. Maybe Houston as a backup.
Potentially. Backups would be tough for these first-round picks. I did want to talk about Steve McClendon. This is pretty funny, if nothing else. This shows you how stupid the Jets are. So I'm going to get through this quickly. Steve McClendon got traded to the Bucs last week, and he knew before that Miami contest that he was being traded, but they told him that the car will be waiting for him after the game in Miami for him to go to Tampa. And I thought it was pretty funny and kind of just shows a lot about the Jets that they were like, hey, you're going to play in this game for us, but we have a car waiting outside for you, which I think is kind of a shell shock for any player. So I think it says a lot about the Jets. But let's talk about a few interesting trades happening in our fantasy league. Of course, this fantasy league constantly trading every week. First,
Especially
we'll start.
you.
Well, yeah, I made 7 trades. We'll get to my 7th trade in a bit. The first trade is between the two brothers in the league, David and Paul. Paul trades David Johnson and Kenyon Drake, who he got in a trade with Tanner earlier in the year, and David trades Chris Godwin and Melvin Gordon. So the big pieces here are Drake going to David. Of course, David last year in our league that us three had won him the fantasy league. Kenyon Drake won him the league pretty much. So he's back kind of home, if you will. But I think the two big pieces here are Drake going to David and Chris Godwin going to Paul. I think Paul won this deal virtually because of the buy low on Chris Godwin right now. But what are your guys' thoughts on this deal?
Yo, David got so fleeced.
You think he got fleeced? You don't think running back depth isn't? I don't necessarily think he got fleeced because I feel like the running back depth is pretty important at this time in fantasy.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, because I mean, David Johnson, he doesn't.
He's been better in recent weeks. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm still not really buying into him though. And Drake, he's been inconsistent to say the least. But I mean, Godwin and Gordon are two really solid players.
Gordon, I have in the same
yeah.
spot as Johnson.
I mean, really?
Yeah, I don't like Melvin Gordon.
I don't know. I mean, I just think that they're much more solid, reliable players, personally.
Brandon, your thoughts on this deal?
Honestly, I think. So are we talking about the first one or the second one?
The first one.
You know, I think the Matty Ice Cubes got the better end of it because I think David Johnson and David Johnson alone is way better this year than Melvin Gordon. I mean, maybe Chris Godwin.
Wait, I'm thinking of Duke Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, David Johnson.
Never mind.
I mean, Chris Godwin is a good pickup, but yeah, I personally would much rather get David Johnson and Kenyon Drake.
Yeah, I just love the buy low here with Godwin. I think Drake, as Shane said, is kind of inconsistent. So that's kind of where my eyes go to. But I think David, considering running back depth needs across the entire league, it's not bad. It's not a bad thing to get for Godwin. And then, Brandon, I'll have you go first with my trade I made with Shane. This trade has a really fun backstory. But Brandon, I'll go to you with this deal. What are your thoughts on this? So Shane gives me Keenan Allen and Boston Scott, and I trade him David Montgomery and Tyler Boyd.
I think Shane won this deal.
I agree.
I think you definitely did a. I think Robert took this as like a buy low.
No, it wasn't a buy low
But,
at all.
I think David Montgomery and Tyler Boyd that's a good pickup. I don't know why you did that trade, Robert.
I'll explain why. So this is a really fun backstory where Shane was kind of in a rough spot with running backs. He didn't have a lot of running back depth. So I jumped in and tried to, he offered me Diggs for Gaskin pretty much. And I mean, it was clear to me that Shane wasn't really trying to give up Diggs. And I know, Brandon, you were trying to kind of make some moves to try to get Diggs. It was kind of clear to me that he wasn't actually trying to give him up. And so I called him the other day and I was like, okay, are you in? Can we talk Diggs? And he was, and it felt like he wasn't really that interested. So I was like, okay, Allen. And Allen is ranked literally one spot below Diggs. But Allen, I wasn't going to give him Gaskin. Like, I still felt like Gaskin kind of sits as a role player on my team. Another guy that I could potentially trade. He's constantly in trade talks with a lot of people in this league. But, Allen, I thought like, okay, I could upgrade my team here. Shane won the deal. 1,000% he won the deal. But based on what I felt like I wanted, which is another upgrade at receiver, it made sense for me. And Boston Scott's still going to be productive for a couple more weeks. Not like I'll need him. So, and I just felt better. Okay, like, hey, let's give up Montgomery. He has a shot to be RB1 value. Shane's right in the sense that he is a bit inconsistent. But considering his schedule the rest of the year, he has a shot to be very productive. And he has a very nice floor. But I also had to realize that at this point, with how much I'm trading, I had to overpay a little bit to get the player that I wanted. So I thought that's why I put Tyler Boyd in the deal. For me, I felt like Shane did a really good job because he made this negotiation very hard for me because I wanted Diggs. It was clear that wasn't going to go through. But for right now, for me, I needed to upsell a little bit just to make sure that it went through, considering those negotiations. So I think he did a great job negotiating. But for me, considering my team, considering my receivers, I got MT, Michael Thomas, now Keenan Allen, Justin Jefferson. I picked up Antonio Brown. I have AJ Brown. I have Preston Williams. I'm at a spot where I have so much receiver depth. My running back depth is good enough now where I'm fine giving up Montgomery. So based on context, I like the deal for me in the sense that Shane won the deal based on depth. But in terms of the best player in the deal, I got the best player in the deal ultimately. And that makes me happy moving forward. Shane, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up pretty nicely. Keenan Allen, though, he's not one rank below Diggs because Diggs is ranked fourth in receivers.
I'm talking about rest of season value. Rest of season value,
gotcha.
He's at 10, like I think 8 to 10, and I think Allen's ranked at 11 if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 18. Maybe like from 11 to 18 range. So I felt pretty good. It's a notch below, but I felt pretty good at that.
Yeah, gotcha.
But Shane, your overall thoughts on how the negotiation went over the last couple of weeks? It was tough, I think, considering how you felt at the running back position. So what were your thoughts on that?
Well, what I really wanted to get was I wanted to trade Diggs for Jonathan Taylor from Brannan. And Brannan was going to get Jonathan Taylor from his buddy Connor, but that deal never went through. And I was like, okay, well, I need to do something here. So, yeah, but it's all good. It worked out in the end.
Yeah. Speaking on Boston Scott, your guy who you started this week, Shane, picked up the Fantasy Stars MVP.
Yep. Thanks to that touchdown at the end.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go to the World Series. This has been a fun World Series down in Arlington. Brandon, I'll have you go first with your impression on the first two games of the World Series.
I think both teams are fairly evenly matched. First game, you saw the Dodgers win it pretty big. And then the second game, you saw the Rays get out to a big lead, and then the Dodgers came back and brought it within 2. And then the third game is going to be tonight. I liked what I saw from the Rays, though. I honestly think the Rays are going to pull it out. I think they're going to win it all. Once again, leaving the Dodgers feeling sad for themselves. Which, to be honest, wouldn't be that upset about, because maybe it'll actually show the league that it's not about throwing all the money at the wall and be like, "Ha, we're gonna win." Yeah.
Shane, your thoughts? Do you feel like the Rays can make this go like 6 or 7? Do you think they have a shot to win this series?
I do see it going to 7, or maybe even 6. I don't know, but this is a tough series for me, because I think that LA definitely has the better offense. They overall have higher batting averages, more runs, more home runs. However, defensively, I like Tampa a lot more. They have, not as many runs allowed, and overall, they just, don't allow as much. I guess as much. They're just cleaner, I think. More strikeouts, and they get the job done much easier. So I don't know. It's interesting. I think LA has a slight edge. I think they're just a little bit better. But knowing them and how they always choke in the World Series, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I really feel like the Dodgers are going to win. I think they have the better offense ultimately, but I love the Rays. I've said every pod over the last month, I love the Rays. I think it goes 6 or 7. I think it's going to be a great series moving forward, but I like the Dodgers because I think their offense ultimately is just better. NBA offseason news. Stan Van Gundy is the Pelicans coach. I like this move a lot. I do. I like Stan. He's consistently been able to develop players while also winning. The Pelicans need that right now. I like this hire a lot. Van Gundy just makes sense. And then the other Van Gundy might be heading to Houston in a few weeks potentially. But let's talk about Stan. Shane, I'll have you go with this one. Pelicans with Stan Van Gundy.
I'm not the person to ask on this because I don't know enough about about him, to be completely honest, to make a proper analysis.
I'll finish up because I did want to do some Raptor stuff in a bit with Brandon, but I just think this is a great hire. I like that he's a developmental guy who wants to get this team to win, and we'll see what happens with Zion and his health, which I think is most important for them heading into next season, whenever that will be. But if Zion's healthy, this team has a shot to be really competitive with Van Gundy down the road. And then, Brandon, I'll ask you about the Pelicans hire, or the Pacers hire with Nate Bergeron. He was the Raptors associate coach. Talk about the Raptors culture and how he could potentially bring that to Indiana. Just overall talk about this Raptors culture and how it could translate to new teams in the league, with this case being the Pacers.
Yeah, I think the Raptors, I think we're going to see a lot of teams specific. I think the one specific thing coming out of the Raptors that we're going to see in a lot of teams where coaches go to different places is their defensive style. I think you're going to see a lot of teams starting to be built in a similar way to the Raptors, especially after they won the whole thing and then the next year made it to the second round. I think it really proves that defense still has a place in basketball. And I think that's the biggest thing. But also, I just think a really balanced way of building teams, like not just putting it all on one or two players, but having like a well-rounded, every player on the court is going to be able to play both ways. Like it's going to be able to play great defense, but also be able to get back on offense and make the plays. So I think those are the two biggest things that I think we're going to see brought to the Pacers.
And then Shane, I know I can ask you about this one. How feasible is a 72-game season starting December 22nd for the NBA? How feasible is a 72-game season starting around Christmas time for the NBA, as that's what they're targeting at the moment?
I mean, if that is the case, I would rather them just do another shortened, like 50, 60 game season starting then. Because, well, actually, let me ask this. Are they planning on finishing in, like early June with the
Yes
NBA finals?
Well, they're also trying to finish before the Olympics. That's why they're setting December 22nd, because they want to finish before the Olympics, which is going to happen regardless of COVID or not. They've already stated that, the IOC. So they really want to push to finish this before the Olympics, which puts them in an even greater bind.
That's also a really weird situation, because if you think about it, we will have basketball for basically a full year after that. Because think about it this way. So if you start in December, you go to June, it finishes in June. They go to the Olympics. They do their stuff in the Olympics. They come home and they are basically right back into
because they want to go to a normal schedule,
right?
Back
because
in
they would want to
2022.
start in October for the preseason games, which means it would be bam right back into it, and so they would have whoever, like the players who aren't playing in the Olympics, that like anybody who plays in the Olympics, they basically have no off time.
Depending on when their team gets eliminated, but
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, you think about teams like the Lakers, the Clippers, the Raptors, the Celtics. Anybody on those teams,
Bucks, whatever.
Bucks, Pelicans, whatever, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Warriors.
Yeah, the Warriors are going to be an interesting team.
Got to talk about the Warriors because
we'll get to them on draft night in what is that, next month? Yeah, I don't see how feasible this is. I don't think the players are going to sign off on this. If anything, I still feel like MLK Day seems pretty feasible at this time as well. That's kind of been rumored over the last week. So yeah, MLK Day seems more feasible to me right now. But even then, like, how certain are we that players
Valentine's
are going to
Day? Then they don't have to take their girlfriends on dates.
No,
I think what they should do is they should start it on New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, and just have every single team play on New Year's Eve and have like a 50-game season.
Well, I mean, if you're starting on New Year's Eve, then you might as well just do the 72 and start 2 weeks before, start on the 22nd, or start on Christmas. But I think MLK Day is more feasible. But I also ask this question: with everything that's going on in the world, how likely do you think it is that NBA players even want to play in the Olympics this year? Like, does the NBA really have to?
Why wouldn't they?
Well, hang on, Shane. Over the last, what?
I mean, you have to think about it this way.
10 years, the Olympics hasn't been that valuable to many players. It really hasn't.
I know, but they always talk about how much fun they have doing it.
I mean,
that's true.
You do realize that if there'll probably be a vaccine by then, and they're most definitely, the players will be the first to get the vaccine,
or at least second in line,
because our country, our world has a weird
Money.
fascination with celebrities and
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying based on where we are now, we don't know about where the vaccine is going to be at this time, but where we are now, I think MLK Day is the feasible start point.
That
I
just
don't
doesn't make much sense though, because that's
yeah.
a lot farther ahead. And
Yeah. I think the NBA prides itself on flexibility with this because ultimately they don't necessarily entirely care about the Olympics. What they care about is not this coming season, but the season after that and making sure that starts in October.
Yeah.
Or maybe potentially December. Maybe they cut the season down a little bit. Maybe this is a perfect opportunity, as Bill Simmons has said on The Ringer for a long time. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity to change the schedule to what we always wanted, which is the NBA to start on Christmas Day. And because that's kind of when people care about it anyway.
A 60-game season instead.
I
mean,
think
ESPN,
72.
I'm sure ESPN would be in heaven if they started on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Or New Year's.
And then let's go to UFC 254. I know Brandon and I are really excited for this main event. So let's just talk about that main event. Khabib Nurmagomedov, Justin Gaethje. I'm sure you're as excited as I am for this fight. How does Gaethje beat Nurmagomedov? Brandon, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh,
What is he asking me?
I think they're two very different styles, you know. I think we've already had this conversation before, but like, I think Gaethje is gonna have a hard time avoiding getting taken to the ground. I'm sure it'll be it's one of those matches though that I can't really choose a winner until I see it.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see if this goes to the ground. How does Gaethje deal with the ground game? Because it is going to go to the ground inevitably. I don't think Gaethje is going to knock him out in the first 2 minutes. When this goes to the ground, Gaethje is a pretty good wrestler. He just never really showed in the UFC. This is his opportunity to show it, but Nurmagomedov is so good on the ground. I say he wins by submission, and I would say the third round, for me at least. I just want to shout out one thing really quick before we get to our last thing, which is actually a pop culture topic. I really wanted to speak on this, but I Am Athlete. This is Brandon Marshall's thing. They've done a lot of really interesting and intricate conversations on athletes' money, talking about Dak Prescott, a bunch of different things. I've really enjoyed these conversations, so I wanted to shout that out really quick before we get to our final topic, which is an interesting one. So one of the heads of Google Stadia posted this tweet, and it got me really riled up. And I wanted to talk about it because I thought you guys would be an interesting group to talk about this with, as well as we are gaming fans as well. So Alex Hutchinson, again, one of the major heads at Google Stadia, said the real truth is that streamers should be paying the developers and publishers for the games they stream. They should be buying a license like any real business and paying for the content they use. Brandon, your thoughts on this? Because I was floored when I saw this.
Oh, this is such a dumb take.
You have to buy the game.
Right. So here's the thing, right? When you buy the game, you're buying the license to play the game.
Yes.
And for someone to say that streamers should not only buy the game, but then pay the developers to show the game, when you have so many games out there, two of the biggest games currently being Fall Guys and Among Us being games that would not have had the success without streamers.
Right.
And then you have this guy who has the audacity to say, oh, y'all should have to pay. And I think someone in the comments I read earlier put it perfectly. Like, it just sounds like this guy's just butthurt. Like, I mean, like, look, this is actually the worst take I've ever heard in my life.
He continues by saying streamers worry about getting their content pulled because they use music they didn't pay for, but they should be more worried about the fact that they're streaming games they didn't pay for as well, talking about games like, let's say, Fortnite or Fall Guys that are free. It's all gone as soon as the publishers decide to enforce it. So that was sort of his continuation on sort of free-to-play games with this.
What? Hold up. So this guy is saying that people should be worried about playing free-to-play games and that publishers are going to decide to enforce it, even though the publishers are the ones who made the game free to play in the first place. When in fact, what he's not realizing is that these free-to-play games were made free-to-play because they make their money off of microtransactions. For example, if you look at Rocket League, which is now free-to-play, all their transactions, if you go into their store, you can pay like a bunch of money to get cosmetics, which, by the way, I actually think is the best way of having microtransactions in a game, because it's not directly impacting your chances of winning the game. It is giving you the choice. Hey, here's some cool outfits that you can have if you choose to pay your money. Whereas with something like FIFA, or Madden, which I think is incredibly broken these days, with their pay-to-win model of, hey, here, give us $100 and we'll give you the best players in the game, basically. And even then, it's
by chance.
Here's a chance of getting the best players in the game.
And you have to work so hard to actually be well.
Right.
Like, I played Madden, and you have to get a 94 overall team. You literally have to spend hours on end playing the game.
Like, it's so funny to see the difference in thinking from this guy, Alex Hutchinson, who, if you look at the games he's been on Spore, Sims, Savage Planet, Far Cry 4, Assassin's Creed 3. These are all AAA games. Then you look at what this guy, Level 58 Designs, says in his thing. He says, developers butthurt because he doesn't steal enough money from crappy games with popular names slapped on them in illegal microtransactions. I'm an indie developer. I'd be flattered if people played my games to get them noticed. If you feel this strongly about it. Right there, indie developers love streamers.
As they should.
Love streamers because they get their games popular. Streamers made Fortnite popular. They made Among Us popular. They made Fall Guys popular. There's all these free-to-play first-person shooters that streamers jump on all the time. Apex Legends, Rogue Leader,
Warzone, for example, even though it's COD.
Right, exactly. Still. Warzone, all these free-to-play games that people have no idea about, and then you see them jump on, and it's like, wow, that looks really fun. This opinion, this is only to get you hate. Like, it's so dumb. It's such a dumb take. And I have no time.
I'm reading the comments, and yeah, people are just giving this guy hell. When he's just being such an ass about it too, like replying to them. I don't know.
But I mean, I was just so floored by it, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it on this show. Shane, your overall thoughts on this take?
I mean, I guess I understand where he's coming from, but it's just like I don't know. It's just dumb, in my opinion. It doesn't. I mean, first of all, I don't even know how this would work. I mean, what is he like? You can't just take money out of their pocket. I mean, it'd be one thing if you were gonna say, okay, Twitch, you give them a profit and the studio some, but they're not gonna agree to that. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
So a couple of things that frustrated me with this take overall. One is there's something called free advertising. that is massively important,
Yeah.
particularly in streaming and in gaming. And that's exactly why developers and publishers give out codes to streamers to play their game for free. And then, those people probably pay microtransactions as well. But let's say that they don't. There's a reason why they get free early access codes. There's a reason why I know we don't really all necessarily like EA, but there's a reason that for the Game Changers program. There's a reason for, even the Game Changers program is a little flawed. But you get what I'm saying. Like, there's a reason that studios try their best to help content creators because they want to get their game out there. It's free advertising. It's just like with this show too. Like, the more people that watch it, the more people that like it, the more people that talk about it. That's free advertising ultimately as well. If you want to look at it from a business sense, you know what I'm saying?
And it's really funny because Google right away was like, in an interview with 9 to 5 Google, a spokesperson said the recent tweets by Alex Hutchinson do not reflect those of Stadia, YouTube, or Google. And then meanwhile, Ryan Wyatt, who's Google's global head of gaming for YouTube, tweeted, "We believe that publishers and creators have a wonderful symbiotic relationship that has allowed a thriving ecosystem to be created, one that has mutually benefited everyone. YouTube is focused on creating value for creators, publishers, and users. All ships rise when we work together." So it's just it's funny how, like, we've seen this sort of thing come from people in sports. We see it in this. We see it all over. It's an example of how social media, when you're in a position of power, is a bad move because you can just spout off what your thoughts.
Be careful about what you're saying.
Exactly. It's like, so.
Not saying that we're all necessarily good at it, right? But it's saying, like, if you're in this position, it's being on social media, you never know what you could say.
I mean, think before you tweet.
Yeah. Twitter is a strange place.
That's why I'm not on it.
Yeah.
I think Twitter's great, but, it's dangerous at the same time.
Yeah. And that is it for today. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Shane. We will see you back on Sunday for the post show, as always. Thank you, guys, for a great show.
Yep.
All right. And thank you to all of you who are listening. Hope you are safe, happy, and healthy. We will see you all on Sunday.